to see the rap star Drake. He granted that wish. Within a week, she got something even more important, a new heart.
I had a tough morning, and then when he came and surprised me, it made my whole entire day better.
At just 11 years old, Rebecca had been through more than most of us could imagine, facing her toughest days as she waited for a heart transplant. With every moment counting, her family had done everything possible. Then, a miracle happened. Drake, the superstar she'd admired, showed up to visit her in the hospital. Touched by her courage, he didn't just offer words of encouragement. He made a generous donation to help cover her medical costs. But will the donation be enough to save Rebecca's life? Join us as we explore this incredible story of compassion and support. Drake's visit and heartfelt donation. At just 11 years old, Rebecca Jemmy had already been through more than most people could imagine. Her life, which should have been full of school days, friendships, and dreams of the future, had been turned upside down by a rare and serious heart condition. Her childhood had become filled with hospital stays, surgeries, and long, lonely nights spent waiting for a miracle. And despite everything, she kept her head up and tried to find joy in the little things. Rebecca wasn't the kind of girl to let life get her down easily. She loved painting, music, and especially dancing. Even when she was too weak to stand up and join her friends, she would sway her head to the music, feeling each beat in her soul. Her family and friends would often tell her she was the strongest person they knew, and deep down, she believed them. But the truth was that there were many nights she lay awake, wondering if she'd ever get to live the life she'd always dreamed of. Then something special happened. It was one of these nights that Rebecca first discovered Drake. She had been scrolling through her mom's phone looking for music videos when she stumbled upon Drake's song, "In My Feelings." The catchy beat and heartfelt lyrics immediately struck a chord with her. She played it again and again, feeling a strange sense of hope and joy. For the first time in a long time, she felt like things might just be okay. Rebecca had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition when she was just 8 years old. At first, it didn't seem like such a big deal. The doctors told her and her family that she'd need to take it easy, avoid strenuous activity, and take a few medications. But as time went on, her condition worsened. What started as occasional chest pain and shortness of breath quickly became something much more serious. By the time she turned 10, Rebecca's doctors sat her family down and explained that her heart simply wasn't strong enough. She would need a transplant if she was going to have any chance at a future. For Rebecca, the news was both terrifying and surreal. How could something like this happen to her? She was just a kid. Wasn't she supposed to be out there playing with her friends and dreaming of all the things she'd do when she grew up? Her parents tried to stay strong for her, but Rebecca could see the worry in their eyes. They spent endless hours at the hospital, holding her hand and reassuring her that everything would be okay. But the waiting game was brutal. As days turned into weeks and months, it became harder for Rebecca to stay positive. She often felt like she was living in a world of her own, cut off from the life she used to know. On one particularly hard day, when Rebecca was feeling low, she was browsing online when she came across the "In My Feelings" challenge. People from all over the world were dancing to Drake's hit song, showing off their best moves and sharing their joy with others. Watching those videos, Rebecca felt a spark of excitement. She thought, if all these people can dance and smile through hard times, maybe I can too. Despite her weakened state, Rebecca decided she would do the challenge herself. With a little help from her mom, she set up her phone, turned on the music, and gave it her best shot. She couldn't do much more than sway her arms and nod her head, but her face lit up with a genuine smile. At the end of the video, with a little giggle, she looked straight at the camera and said, "Drake, if you're watching this, please come visit me on my birthday." Rebecca's mother shared the video on social media, not expecting much, but hoping it might cheer up a few friends and family members. But soon, the video began to spread. Friends shared it, and then their friends shared it. And before long, thousands of people had seen Rebecca's brave little dance. Some tagged Drake's social media accounts, hoping he might see it. Others shared messages of support and encouragement. It seemed like everyone was rooting for Rebecca. Rebecca's birthday came around, and though she was still in the hospital, her family tried to make the day special. They brought balloons, homemade cards, and even a small cake. Nurses and doctors stopped by her room, each wishing her a happy birthday and bringing small gifts. Rebecca appreciated all the love and kindness, but in her heart, she was holding on to a secret hope. She knew it was a long shot, but she couldn't help but wonder if Drake had seen her video. It was around lunchtime when there was a knock on the door. A nurse stepped in with an odd smile on her face. Before Rebecca could ask what was going on, in walked Drake himself, smiling and holding a small bouquet of flowers. For a moment, Rebecca was speechless. She blinked, unable to believe her eyes. Drake stepped into the room with a warm smile, immediately lighting up the space as Rebecca's eyes grew wide in disbelief. She stared at him, unable to speak, her expression a mixture of shock and awe. He chuckled softly, sensing her surprise, and said he was there because she'd asked him to be. It was as if he was thinking aloud, wondering whether this moment was simply a dream or something meant to happen. Rebecca's eyes welled up with tears, and after a moment, she found her voice. She told him that she'd just gone through open heart surgery, and all she had hoped for was something, or someone, to lift her spirits. Hearing her voice tremble with emotion, Drake's expression softened even more. He walked over, knelt down beside her bed, and took her hand gently, reassuring her that he was there for her. He promised he wouldn't leave until they'd had the best time together, and in that simple moment, her world brightened in a way she hadn't felt in months. For the next few hours, Rebecca and Drake laughed, talked, and shared stories. They took selfies, made funny faces, and even tried a little dance, though Rebecca was still too weak to move much. She told him about her favorite songs, and he asked about her dreams and what she wanted to do when she got better. He even promised her tickets to his upcoming show once she gets better. As they talked, Drake was struck by Rebecca's resilience. Here was this young girl, facing some of the hardest challenges anyone could imagine, and yet she was still smiling, still dreaming. He could see the strength in her eyes and the determination in her heart, and it moved him deeply. Before he left, Drake slipped a small bracelet into Rebecca's hand, a keepsake to remind her of their special time together. He looked into her eyes with a steady, heartfelt gaze, telling her how strong he thought she was. He urged her to keep fighting, promising that he'd be cheering for her every step of the way. Moved by his words, Rebecca hugged him as tightly as she could, her gratitude overflowing. She whispered her thanks, letting him know just how much his visit truly meant to her, filling her heart with hope and strength. But something more special happened. How Drake's resilience inspired the world. Drake left Lurie Children's Hospital that day, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do more. Rebecca had touched his heart in a way few people had, and he wanted to help her in any way he could. He reached out to the hospital and her doctors, asking if there was anything he could do to make her journey a little easier. Though he couldn't directly get her a heart transplant, Drake made a significant donation to assist with her medical care and help cover some of the expenses her family was facing. The donation allowed the hospital to provide extra resources for Rebecca's care, ensuring that she was on the best possible path as she awaited her transplant. When Rebecca's family found out about Drake's donation, they were overwhelmed with gratitude. It wasn't just the money. It was the kindness, the generosity, and the hope it brought them in a time of need. Rebecca's mother was deeply moved by Drake's kindness, tears brimming in her eyes as she reflected on his generosity. His visit had been more than just a surprise for Rebecca's birthday. It had brought a sense of hope to their family during one of their darkest times. His compassion had left an indelible mark on their hearts, a memory they would carry with them always, a reminder of the unexpected kindness that had touched their lives. In the days following Drake's visit, Rebecca felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. Every time she looked down at the small bracelet he'd left her, she was reminded of his words, "Keep fighting. I'll be cheering you on every step of the way." She wore it daily, feeling like it gave her a strength she couldn't explain. For the first time in a long time, she could imagine a future, a life beyond the walls of the hospital. Drake's donation had a profound impact, not only on Rebecca's medical care, but on the spirit of everyone who knew her story. The nurses and doctors at Lurie Children's Hospital saw firsthand the difference his generosity made. With the additional resources, Rebecca's care team could offer her more support, ensuring that she received the best possible treatment as she awaited her heart transplant. The medical expenses, which had weighed heavily on her family, were now manageable, allowing them to focus entirely on her well-being and recovery. Rebecca's story had gone viral, and people from all over the world were inspired by her strength and spirit. Letters and cards poured into the hospital, each one filled with messages of encouragement. Children from other hospitals facing their own battles wrote to tell Rebecca that she was their hero, and her bravery inspired them to keep fighting too. People shared her story online, spreading the message of resilience and hope that she embodied. Rebecca's mother was amazed by the outpouring of support. She saw how much these messages meant to Rebecca, lifting her spirits on days when she felt down. They spent hours reading through the cards, laughing at funny notes, and marveling at the kindness of strangers. For Rebecca's family, the love and encouragement they received from people near and far was a reminder that they weren't alone in this journey. They had a whole community, even a whole world, standing with them. As Rebecca's family held on to hope, the waiting game for her transplant continued. Every time the phone rang, her parents held their breath, wondering if it might finally be the call they'd been waiting for. Yet the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, with no news. Rebecca's health remained fragile, and there were days when the wait felt like an eternity. On a rainy autumn morning, the call finally came. Rebecca's mother answered, and her face went pale as she listened to the doctor on the other end of the line. A donor heart had been found. Rebecca, who had been dozing in her hospital bed, opened her eyes to see her mother crying, but this time, they were tears of joy. Before she was wheeled into surgery, Rebecca asked to make one last video. Her mother held the phone, trying to steady her hands as she captured the moment. Rebecca looked into the camera, her young face a mix of fear and hope. She spoke softly, her words carrying the weight of all she had endured. She thanked everyone who had supported her, her voice trembling slightly as she expressed her gratitude. With a deep breath, she shared that she was about to receive her new heart, her gaze steady yet vulnerable. Her last words were a gentle request, asking everyone to keep her in their thoughts. The surgery was a success, and after a long and challenging recovery, Rebecca slowly began to regain her strength. Her first few days were difficult, and she felt weak and sore. But every time she looked down at Drake's bracelet, she felt a sense of courage and resilience. She knew that she had come this far, and she was determined to keep going. Months passed, and each day Rebecca grew stronger. Physical therapy sessions were tough, but she tackled each one with the same spirit she'd shown throughout her journey. Her family, friends, and the hospital staff cheered her on, celebrating every milestone she reached. The day she was finally able to walk down the hospital hallway without assistance was a triumph, and she grinned from ear to ear as the nurses clapped and cheered her on. As part of her recovery, Rebecca began painting again, using her artwork to express the emotions she'd experienced throughout her journey. Her art became a form of therapy, a way for her to process everything she'd been through. She even painted a picture of herself dancing with Drake, the memory of his visit still vivid in her mind. Her work caught the attention of her doctors, who encouraged her to display it in the hospital's art gallery, inspiring other young patients who were facing their own battles. 1 year after her transplant, Rebecca was ready to make her dream a reality. With her family's help, she officially launched the Rebecca's Heart Foundation. The foundation quickly gained support, with people from all over the world donating to help bring art, music, and joy to children in hospitals. Her story had touched so many, and they were eager to be part of her mission. Drake himself was one of the first supporters of the foundation. He not only made a generous donation, but also attended the foundation's launch event, where he shared how much Rebecca's journey had inspired him. Standing beside her, he spoke to the crowd about her strength and resilience, describing how her courage had changed his own outlook on life. For Rebecca, her journey, from that lonely hospital room to a life filled with purpose and hope, was proof that even the hardest battles can lead to something beautiful. Through her foundation, her story, and her unbreakable spirit, she continued to bring hope to those who needed it most. A reminder that even in life's hardest moments, kindness and courage can make all the difference. What are your thoughts on Drake's show of support and compassion? Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.